Everton have just beaten Manchester United despite having 10 men for 81 minutes. But how did they do it, and what made it so successful? Both sides started the game with 11 men, of course, though, and they started off completely different formation-wise. With Manchester United using that 3 at the back, we've seen them use for over a year now, and Everton using a 4-2-3-1 with a double pivot of Idrissa Gueye and James Garner. But it didn't last very long. But in the opening exchanges, it was pretty positive for Everton, using a man-to-man pressing scheme when Manchester United were passing it around their back 3, with Grealish, Tieno Barry and Iliman Ndiaye being pretty narrow to prevent Manchester United from having the ball with their centre-backs for too long. And that often meant that Luke Shaw, as the left centre-back, would peel extremely wide in the initial build-up to be able to play the ball forward. But that meant that Iliman Ndiaye was able to pressure him, forcing Shaw to play long at times. And the aggression in the middle of the park from Everton was a big thing in these opening 10 minutes, with Keane Dewsbury-Hall here getting to the ball before Joshua Zirkzee has a chance to retrieve the ball, look to play it forward, meaning that Manchester United are now scrambling, whilst Everton, in themselves, have bodies forward, making it an uncomfortable situation for Manchester United, who didn't look settled at all in the opening exchanges. And Everton were pretty positive when they had the ball. When Everton were building up, it was being played through the thirds in central areas, like you see here. Garner Gueye's on the ball. He's got movement surrounding him. Even James Garner, as the defensive midfielder, or the secondary defensive midfielder in this setup, is the furthest player forward. Iliman Ndiaye is down here. Meanwhile, Grealish and Mykolenko are both out wide, and Manchester United have nobody on them because there's so much movement, they don't know which way to move. And here you see the real benefits of this pressing scheme by Everton. Iliman Ndiaye here going for Luke Shaw, who isn't in the frame, but Tieno Barry on De Ligt, Grealish on Euro, and vice versa throughout the whole team. I don't know what's going on here, because get up Zirkzee, it was never a foul, but you can see it everywhere. There's man-to-man pressing going on absolutely everywhere. Michael Keane here and James Tarkowski here are both in Manchester United's half at Old Trafford, making it extremely uncomfortable for them. Manchester United look very shook in these opening 10 minutes, 7th minute. And Everton, off the back of this press, were creating chances. Iliman Ndiaye here on his left foot. His weaker foot, I will add, having a chance at goal. Didn't go in, but this came from an aggressive press from James Tarkowski stepping up onto Joshua Zirkzee, who did not want the physical battle at all today. But we'll get to Manchester United and their physical battle in Everton's box in a second. And at this point in time, this happened in the 12th minute. It says 24 here, but this was a replay. But at this point in time, I was probably the saddest I've been all day, because we were playing so well. Garner Gueye was playing so well, but he decided to slap Michael Keane. In my opinion, that was a very soft red card. I know there was hands thrown, Garner Gueye's hand mainly, and it was ugly, and the aggression after the matter was a bit over the top, and it did boil over, but it's extremely soft. I don't think many neutrals would have wanted that to be a red card because of how good the game was and how much it was flowing. I get that this aggression after it happened did halt the restart, and the referee probably felt like he had to do something to get things moving, but I still think it was quite soft. And here you have, of course, the letter of the law, but look around. Not many people are interested as to what is going on, but one person is for certain, and that's not Joshua Zirkzee. That's me not being able to use a mouse. It's the referee. Forgive me, I'm not sure of his name, but he did see this as a problem, and the letter of the law, striking an opponent or any other person on the head or face with the hand or arm, is a red card, unless the force used was negligible. And you could make an argument for this being negligible, but anyway, on to what Everton did so well after this red card happened. And it resulted in a complete tactical shift from Everton. The man-for-man press had to, of course, be abandoned, because you can't go man-for-man when you've got one player less, because spaces will occur, and that spare man for Manchester United will cause problems. So instead, it quickly became a 4-4-1. With Jake O'Brien, a player that came on, didn't start this game, coming on to replace captain Seamus Coleman. And by this point, it felt like the walls were falling down around us. But somehow, and I'll explain why, we got away with it. But initially, with Joshua Zirkzee here getting on the ball in this space, with Mazraoui making those runs in behind, it did look like Manchester United were finding gaps and finding ways of penetrating the Everton box. But weirdly, in the second half, they totally moved on from trying to play like this, and they made it quite easy for Everton. But the way Everton dealt with it made it very difficult for Manchester United on the other hand. And this is something Gary Neville said on the commentary, but I had it in my mind anyway. In this first half, they said it in the second half, but in the first half here, this moment from Jack Grealish, this is what we did not have last season. And to many, it looks like a dribble far away from goal that probably wouldn't result in anything. But when you've got 10 men, and Jack Grealish on his own is attracting 3 Manchester United players, it does create gaps elsewhere. And this is in the lead up or about 20 seconds before the goal. Having that fear factor and ability to draw in players and carry the ball with confidence is something that Grealish has certainly added to Everton, but it's also something that we've got in Iliman and Jai. But having both of them at the same time is so crucial. So this is the goal, and something I noticed a couple seconds just before Keenan Dewsbury-Hall gets the ball, just before this, is that he takes a quick look over his shoulder to be able to scan to know if he's got a player surrounding him and whether he can receive the ball on the back foot and turn. And because he's taken that look to realise he's not got anybody tightly marking him, he's able to take the ball on the back foot and turn. And what he does next is very high IQ stuff. He manipulates the Manchester United defenders so well here. Because you see here, he's making a straight run towards Lenny Yoro, a run that would probably see you run into a corridor that would just shut itself on you, and Lenny Yoro or another Manchester United player would eventually get a toe on the ball, and then the attack would eventually end. But Keenan Dewsbury-Hall also has Bruno Fernandes chasing him, but he deals with this by taking a step across Bruno Fernandes in this direction, meaning that Dewsbury-Hall is now between the ball and Bruno Fernandes, meaning that Bruno Fernandes absolutely can't stick a leg out because he knows he's going to take out Dewsbury-Hall to get to the ball, meaning that any foul results in a free kick in a very dangerous area. But that specific touch is more important than just isolating Bruno Fernandes, because that touch now means that Lenny Yoro is facing this way, his body weight, you can see it, he's leaning forward, is now facing away from goal. With Dewsbury-Hall then taking a touch to the other direction, it makes it very difficult for Lenny Yoro to get a clean connection on the ball and to get enough connection on there to clear it away from danger, meaning that he's pretty stuck in the mud right now. And again, you see Dewsbury-Hall, he then gets his body in between Lenny Yoro and the ball, meaning that it's impossible for Lenny Yoro to now do anything about it. Meanwhile, the distances from the Manchester United defenders are quite big, about 10 yards, maybe 7, 6, what are we saying? But the point is that he's got shooting distance now, and he's got time to do it. But this is on his weak foot, and Dewsbury-Hall, what we've learned from his time at Everton is that he is quite left-footed. He's pretty one-footed. He's amazing with his left foot, but quite one-footed generally. So when he did this with this technique, I was pretty shocked. Lamens in goal is a goalie that's been praised to the heavens almost by Manchester United fans and wider Premier League fans as well. I've seen Courtois comparisons being made. So this goal must have been pretty good from Dewsbury-Hall. And of course, we know it was good because it went right in the top corner. The only place you probably could have put it, but to do it with your weak foot and to do it with 2 Manchester United players pressuring you after receiving the ball 35 yards away from goal is truly a special moment, and something obviously we didn't have last season in Dewsbury-Hall's case. And it's really positive to see. We've already looked at Dewsbury-Hall's goal and attacking output there. He's been playing as an attacking midfielder for Everton. His attacking output is very strong usually, but he's never played deep. And this was the first game he's truly done it for Everton. And it was there was probably question marks there. When David Moyes didn't make a sub after the red card, it looked like we were going to stay in that 4-4-1-1 with Dewsbury-Hall being asked to play as part of the double pivot for the first time in an Everton shirt. And when he was making tackles like this, a recovery tackle on Bryan Mbeumo, I thought, okay, he knows what he's doing. He's essentially 2 players in one. He can go both ways, and his output both ways is equally as good as the other. Look at the time here in the top left. 44 minutes, just about to creep over into 45 minutes, you know, the time of game you don't want to concede in. And this is what happens when you have a goalkeeper of the quality of Air Jordan himself, Jordan Pickford. This screenshot on its own probably doesn't do Jordan Pickford's performance today justice, but don't worry, I've got more screenshots so we can all enjoy it. Speaking of enjoying it, if you are enjoying this, click the like button, click subscribe, all of that stuff. Thank you. After Pickford kept Everton in the game towards the rear end of the first half, the second half loomed it was pretty anxious stuff at half time. I was thinking, no way, we will go this entire game without conceding a few good chances. And when I saw Manchester United approach it like this, my worry subdued a tiny bit, because what you see here is, look, Mason Mount came on, that's Casemiro, that is Joshua Zirkzee. They're all very bunched together. They're all very, very bunched together. Brian Mbeumo here is the only Manchester United forward taking up Everton defenders. And in fairness, he's dragged Mikalenko narrow to do this, but it was all very cagey, and you could have thrown a blanket over all these players and they would have been totally covered. And that meant the only real out ball or way to get the ball into the final third Manchester United had was these switches to Ahmad, or on the other side, Luke Shaw did it a few times but didn't do it enough. Ask Gary Neville, he was not happy. But when these balls were getting played into wide areas, I was pretty comfortable, because in Michael Keane, James Tarkowski and Jake O'Brien, we have mammoths at the back. Mammoths that win duels, and that's important. When you're defending your box, defending for your life, these aerial duels become almost as important as goals. This massively helped Everton out, and this is Manchester United making it easy for Everton, because Everton have got a numerical disadvantage, of course, in having 10 men, but Manchester United, Amarim's system, makes sure that he always has 3 centre-backs on the ball, and that can be useful sometimes when building up, but none of the centre-backs even have the ball, because Bruno Fernandes has still dropped deep, meaning that 5 Manchester United players are all in their own half, with Everton not even pressing. Manchester United could have afforded to commit these players further forward, Luke Shaw being one, probably Casemiro. Bruno Fernandes doesn't really need to be getting on the ball there. He could be stood somewhere around here looking to receive the ball on the back foot, like we saw Keenan Dewsbury-Hall do earlier. But this meant that Everton didn't really have to engage, and Bruno Fernandes all the time looked for these Hollywood passes out wide. You can see Ahmed there just about. And those passes, despite looking good, they take a lot of time to traverse the pitch, giving Everton a lot of time to then get back into defensive shape and organise. But as it went on, we did see Luke Shaw begin to make these runs in behind. And this was worrying, because this pass from Bruno actually did get to Luke Shaw perfectly. And then obviously wide areas, overloads, because Everton was so concerned with keeping the middle extremely tight and packed. So it was then really strange that Luke Shaw just decided to chill at left centre-back. And, you know, as an Everton fan, I'll take it. I'll absolutely take it. Thank you for making my life easier anyway. But something else that made my life easier, and all Everton fans' lives easier, and the Everton players and David Moyes and everyone associated with the club, was this. This may not look like a lot, but Keenan Dewsbury-Hall here, winning fouls. He won 3 fouls in this game. But so did Jack Grealish, also winning 3 fouls. And listen to some of these stats. Of course, Keenan Dewsbury-Hall scored the only goal in this game, but with 6 clearances, 5 recoveries, and 6 out of 9 ground duels won, he put in one of the biggest shifts of an Everton player this season. Grealish as well, 5 duels won, 4 recoveries, essentially playing left wing back throughout the game. And you know what? He did not complain, and he got us up the pitch, and importantly, he won us fouls. And Grealish winning those fouls was so important. There was a moment in the game where he rattled Amad Diallo off the ball when the ball wasn't in play, and then Everton get a free kick, play it straight to Grealish. Amad Diallo comes straight through the back of Jack Grealish, and you can see Jack Grealish smile from ear to ear, because he knows he's done exactly what he set out to do. Absolutely no way I was not mentioning this man's performance today for Everton. Tierno Barry, by the 75th minute, had already won the most aerial duels of any Premier League player in a single game this season. For this stat to be owned by a striker is ridiculous. Strikers winning aerial duels is far less common than centre-backs winning aerial duels, because centre-backs are allowed to come through the back of the strikers, meaning that is probably easier, well, it is easier for defenders to come and clean out the ball, as well as having that run on the striker. But Tierno Barry, 14 aerial duels against Matthijs de Ligt, who is a big lad himself, shows just how useful he was for Everton in getting us up the pitch. And before that red card, he looked pretty dangerous, having those interchanges with Iliman Ndiaye on the right side. I told you I had more Air Jordan. Look, 80th minute. Absolutely unbelievable save. Again, the screenshot does not make it justice. Good thing I've got another one. But look, Jordan Pickford is a player that is massively overlooked by everyone outside of Everton, I feel, because he wins us points every single season and he wins us important points. The way that we've been able to keep a hold of him is nothing short of a miracle. And when we do get these results, he plays just as an important part as anyone else on the pitch, including the goal scorers. But there's absolutely no way in this world I was making this video without giving credit to some of the other Everton players that stood out. Michael Keane against Manchester United with 10 men for 81 minutes. 2 interceptions, 5 clearances, 6 out of 9 duels won, and 2 blocks. Mikalenko, 8 clearances, 8 clearances. And Jake O'Brien, 6 clearances, but 4 out of 4, 100% aerial duels won. These 3 players have been written off at times. I've been critical of them all, I'll be honest, but they today showed that they can play in a defensive system at least. At least, Michael Keane this season has been a very high performer for Everton. That game just encapsulated all the good stuff he's been doing this season. It's important to remember that as a centre-back who's right-footed, playing on the left-hand side of the back two is a difficult job in itself because you often have closed-off angles where you don't really trust your left foot. But defending your box with James Tarkowski, those two are something else at it. I know there was a penalty given away earlier on in the season and it was a bit lackadaisical and it looked ugly and uncoordinated, but when you get the good side of it, it's just so frustrating. Manchester United, it's frustrating for Manchester United, may I be clear. Manchester United attempted 32 crosses in this game, 32. We forced them to play the ball out wide because we were so compact in the middle and they just simply did not have an answer for it. Newcastle next, I'll be there with a match reaction and a tactical breakdown. Make sure to follow on all the socials in the description below, please, and thank you very much. Up the toffees.